Good afternoon, Facebook, and wherever I got this thing going. But it is 4 o'clock in the PM on November 23rd. Yes, I'm on a little later than I usually am because I got to go to church this morning. So it's 4 o'clock on November 23rd, and it's time for What Penny's saying. No matter if it's later or soon, it's time for What Penny's saying. So, with that being said, go grab your sandwich, a bag of chips, and a cool beverage you're choosing, and sit down for a few minutes out of your busy schedule and watch and listen to What Penny's saying. Like, comment, and share your proceedings at your convenience. Please, man, please, sir. And hey, please watch the entire video because you never know, you might miss something that was designed for your ears to hear. And as always, and I love to tell you this, I do not own any copyrights to any song, movie, or television show that I may have to reference in these proceedings. So thank you for watching, listening, and God bless you. So I am continuing this series talking about the 12 disciples. And last week, I gave you James, the son of Alphaeus, and I told you there was another one named James. And we're going to talk about the other James. And I had to do some more research on this to make sure I got this right because I thought this James had his own book in the Bible, but I'm going to tell you about that in a second. So this time we're going to be talking about James, the son of Zebedee, or James the Greater as he is called. Now, this particular James is the brother of John. And every time you hear him mentioned, you'll see James and John. James and John, they were brothers. He was the brother of John. They were fishermen. James is among the first to be called to follow Jesus. He's among the first, that first four. It was Peter and Andrew, John, and James. So James is the older brother of John the Baptist, the older brother. So, and they're always mentioned together. And James had he had a very prominent position amongst the disciples. James, Peter, and John had formed this triumvirate, and they were very involved in a lot of things. As a matter of fact, Jesus gave John and James a name. See, make sure I'm pronouncing this right. It's called Boanerges, which means sons of thunder. So, see, Jesus need people around him who have some zeal, who have some zest, who have some enthusiasm. Now, I'm gonna read you a situation where they had a little bit too much zest, or too much flavor, too much fire. You can have too much fire. So they had a little bit too much. So I'm gonna tell you about an incident that James and John had, and they were really trying to have Jesus back, but they went about it a little too much, a little too much. So the scripture I'm going to go into. Hello to everybody coming on. This is What Penn is saying. Glad to be with you. We're going to go to Luke chapter 9, verses 51 through 56. This is the Amplified version. And what we're talking about is we're talking about James, who's one of the disciples, who's John's brother. And this is a episode that they had, and it's going to show you why Jesus named them, because it doesn't really say why he named them the Sons of Thunder, but this should give you some type of idea. And it reads, when the time was approaching for him to be taken up to heaven, he was determined to go to Jerusalem to fulfill his purpose. He sent messengers on ahead of him, and they went into a Samaritan village to make arrangements for him. But when the people would not welcome him because he was traveling toward Jerusalem, when his disciples James and John saw this, they said, Lord, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and destroy them? For the Son of Man did not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. This is what Jesus told them. So they were prepared because these people didn't welcome Jesus. James and John, hey, you need us to call down fire from heaven on these jokers? And she's like, no, we didn't come to destroy nobody. Just calm down. So just chill out. So what happened was, because James had all this fire, all this zest, he was named the Sons of Thunder along with his brother John. But James was privy to three different examples also. See, some of these disciples, the first three that I did, they were named in the three different places that all the disciples were named, and then some of them were named in a little have a little more prominence. Now, James is the brother of John. John would become more prominent because he would have a different standing with Jesus. So John the Baptist would have more prominence, but James was his older brother. And James was privy to three events along with Peter and John. The first event was they, Jesus wanted them with the raising of Jairus' daughter from the dead in Mark 5 and 37. So he was there with them. James was also with Peter and John, and uh, Jesus requested him to be there at the transfiguration in Mark chapter 9, verse 2. And then there's another example where James is present with with Peter and John. The other example is that Jesus' agony in the Garden of Gethsemane in Mark chapter 14, verse 33. So, and he was named, and again, he was named James the Great, not because he was greater than anybody, but they wanted to distinguish him from the other James, who was James the Lesser. And some of the individuals that was around Jesus, they were all different types of people. But James was among this inner circle along with Peter and John. And a lot of the other disciples had issues with them because I'm pretty sure if you're in a group of people and it seems like some people are higher than others, even though y'all all on the same level, but it seems like these three are special and y'all are not. So I can imagine that there were some issues with the other disciples concerning these three. And James and John, they didn't mind mixing it up. They didn't mind when it came to Jesus. They didn't mind mixing it up. And so a lot of times, and just like when we have a bunch of friends, we have different people around us. Don't you? I think everybody has you either still have or have had that one friend who is just full of zest, just full of fire, would go to bat for you, and you had to calm down. Like, hey, chill out, man. It's okay. That's what James was. He was one of the disciples like that. John was kind of like that too, but James was like, hey, let's mix it up. And so, like I said, a lot of disciples, some disciples didn't care for them, and because it's amazing how things happen in the religious world, things happen in the world, the secular world, and people want to say, "Oh, it don't happen in church." Well, I'm here to tell you, you think jealousy don't happen in church? Think again. You don't think envy and jealousy or those things crop up in there sometimes? And I'm gonna tell you why that happens. Because even though these were disciples and they were handpicked by Jesus, now Jesus is perfect, the disciples were not. They had jobs that they had to do. Some were fishermen, some were tax collectors. So Jesus is perfect. We as human beings are not. Why am I saying that? Because every so often, from time to time, we human beings, we make mistakes. We'll put our foot in our mouth. We'll do something we don't have no business doing. And so that's why. So that's why, we shouldn't be so quick to judge or think that things do not happen because um this what happens. So because we are human and because we still have the ability to make mistakes, we have to watch how we're acting. We have to watch what we're saying. We have to watch what we're doing. And we have to watch how we present ourselves to the world because the world is always watching. And sometimes the world is waiting for us to mess up to say, hey, you know what? Man, I don't want to be with that. I don't want to be saved. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that. But I'm getting off topic a little bit. I apologize for that. So let me not look at I'm looking at some comments here. Let me not look at the comments. Let me just keep talking about what I'm talking about. So basically, James was the son of Zebedee, like I said, and he was privy to a lot of different events. So although these 12 disciples, at the end, when I get to the end of uh the position that they all got, because they're all going to have a very special position. And even though some of the disciples have more fame, like John and Peter, than maybe James the Lesser, or this particular James, even though James was privy to a lot of events. James also, this is very interesting also about James. I forgot to mention this. This is very interesting about James also. James was actually the first one that's mentioned in the Bible. His death was actually the first one mentioned, and how he was martyred. So that's in Acts 12:2. This is 1 and 2. It says, now at the time Herod Agrippa I, the king of the Jews, arrested some who belonged to the church, intending to harm them. And he had James, the brother of John, put to death with a sword. So all the disciples died. Some of them died mercilessly, not the best fashion. Not that dying is, dying in the best fashion is, it doesn't really matter. So his death is actually mentioned. A lot of the disciples' death are not mentioned. We know John was beheaded and things of that nature, and Andrew was crucified like Jesus, but he didn't want to be crucified like Jesus. So one of the kings had James killed, and I imagine he had James killed because he didn't like John. See, when John came, and we're gonna get to John, when John came and John was talking about there's gonna be somebody coming after him. Sometimes if they can't get to you, they'll get to your family. So in order to get to John, they wanted to get to his brother. So James ended up dying. So these are some of the men that was around Jesus. And James was he was a fire plug. He was a firecracker. And I'm gonna say this, and I know somebody may not like it. That's okay. That's cool. That's fine. But a lot of times when it comes to talking about Jesus, when it comes to talking about God, when it comes to talking about the Bible, some people don't come with it with a little enthusiasm. They come with it kind of monotone and, oh, Father God, I thank you. And they don't come to it with no enthusiasm. They don't come to it with no, like, I hope that if you're watching this, that if I'm not educating you and helping you to understand something, and you don't like what I'm saying, that's fine. We can talk about it. That's okay. Then I at least hope you're not bored. And I hope that I hope that I have some enthusiasm about talking with Jesus, because there's a lot to be excited about Jesus. If you're not excited about Jesus, and then we get on these social media airwaves and we sound boring or we sound uninspired, why would people want to follow Christ and we're representing him and we're not excited about it? We're not excited about the lifestyle. So James was one who had that zest, who had that zeal, who had that fire. Now, even though you can have this zest, this zeal, and all this fire and all this stuff, you still got to have it placed properly. It's got to be in the correct context. Because, like I said, he was ready to rain down. Y'all ain't working with Jesus? Jesus, hey, you need some. We can rain down some fire for heaven and get rid of these people. And Jesus is like, hey, just chill, chill. Like I said earlier, some of us have had a friend who, and I've had friends like that before, and I you like when somebody is going to stand up for you. You like that. Even though you may have to calm down, you like when somebody has got your back. You like when somebody is going to go to bat for you. You like that. All of us like that. All of us want somebody in our life that's going to stand up for us, that's going to go to bat for us, that's going to go to war with us, that's going to be like, you know what? Hey, brother, you stand back. I got this. And they're putting their hands up for you. All of us want somebody like that. That's who James was, James the Greater. That's who he was. That's why Jesus nicknamed him and John the sons of thunder, because they was ready to throw blows over Jesus. They was ready. They was willing. They was ready and willing. Jesus had to back them off. He had to back them off. You want us to rain down fire? Hey, we'll do it. People ain't welcoming you. What's wrong with these people? So it is amazing how, and once again, these were men that were picked as his disciples to teach and preach the word after he handpicked them as he was going to go back to heaven. He told them he was leaving and all that. They were sad and all that good stuff. We're going to get to all that a little bit later on as we go into Peter and John and Judas Iscariot, the traitor. Those are going to be the last three we do, because those are the three that everybody knows. Those are the three that everybody knows. But some of these other ones, are very interesting. Now, James, there's a book, there's an epistle of James in the Bible, but it is not this James. He is not the James that writes that epistle. That is a different James who is not one of the apostles. He is a different James. I thought that too, but I had to make sure I got that right because when I first read that, I thought it was him, but it is not him. That is another James that writes the epistle of James in the Bible. But this James is one of the disciples, one of the first. And he is actually, to this day, he is still the patron saint of Spain. So again, a lot of the disciples went out and traveled to different parts of the world and they preached the message, they preached the word as Jesus wanted them to, and they did their thing. They did what they're supposed to do. And again, as you teach and preach the word, there will be some that don't like it. There will be some that will always try to be combative. First of all, let me say this. Let me say this. Let me be very clear. As educated as you may be, or as educated as you are, nobody knows everything. So if someone, including myself, says something wrong or whatever, and you are trying to, and you show me something, and I said that I was wrong, I am adult enough and Christian enough not to make it a combative thing where we're going back and forth like, oh, you saying I'm wrong and you're right, blah blah blah. I don't. First of all, as a as someone who's doing his best to follow Jesus, I don't have time to argue with people. You know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's no big deal. I'm not afraid to admit that I'm wrong. I know that I don't know everything. When I get on here, I do my research and do the best I can. But if I say something wrong, if somebody corrects me, I don't have a problem saying, hey, brother, thank you. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do that right now. Hey, brother, thank you. Thanks for correcting me. Because it's not a matter of, because a lot of times we get ourselves into trouble by always wanting to be right. And in the matter of trying to be right and you telling somebody that they're wrong, how you tell them they're wrong can make you wrong. So that's why I'm saying that, because a lot of people want to, I call them right makers. They got to correct you. They got to correct you. But if they make a mistake, you better not correct them. So in saying that, you know, once again, James was handpicked by Jesus to be one of his disciples, along with 11 other men. And Jesus named them this Boanerges. I'm probably still not pronouncing that right. The sons of thunder, along with his brother John. A lot of times when you see James, you'll see him mentioned with his brother John, John the Baptist. John the Baptist will going to become more famous due to the fact that he was around Peter and John. But John got to experience some things in the book of Revelation that the other ones did not. He got to see some things. He got to experience some things with Jesus that the other ones did not. So that's why John is very prominent. When you talk about the disciples, most people know John, they know Peter, and of course they know the traitor. And the traitor, we're gonna get to him. But James, he was a disciple. He was not like the other James, the son of Alphaeus. He was a little different. He had a little more prominence than that James had, but he is not as prominent as his brother. Again, he was one of the first four. They were fishermen. Him and his brother John, Peter, and Andrew were fishermen. And as Jesus was the first part of Jesus' public ministry in Matthew 4, verse 18 through 22, where he went and saw them and he told them to throw your nets out and become fishers of men. Peter and Andrew were there. John and James, the son of Zebedee, was there. And now there's another James, and the James that wrote the epistle is actually the James. He's actually Jesus' cousin. So that James holds a very special distinction. But this James right here is the brother of John, and he had particular prominence, some prominence, not like his brother John. So that's all we have for today. If you see that little picture in the background, my son painted a picture of me. So he's painting pictures of me now. So thank God for my son. So that's going to wrap up today. Like I said, some of these not so well-known disciples, I'm going to share what I've seen, what I've written about them, not written, excuse me, what I've researched about. I'm going to share that, and then we're going to shut it down for the day. So next week we're gonna do another disciple and tell you about him, so you can get kind of an idea of the men that were walking around Jesus, the 12 disciples that he selected himself. And at the end, it's a very special place that they have, the 12 disciples they have, even in death, some of them were martyred and some of them were killed in some very gruesome and ugly ways. They still held a special place, a special designation with Jesus. So there you have it. Thank you.